Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you had a good lunch. We have a very cool keynote presentation today for you. Genesis of Life, GameFi for Everyone. Being presented by the legend that is Zaf Khan, Chief Marketing Officer at AZTEQ. Voila, the stage is yours.
Checking microphone. Afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here. Secondly, I just want to point out, I would love to talk about the philosophy behind what is a metaverse for the next 2 hours. But I don't have that sort of time. So what I am going to do instead is talk to you about this creation arc from concept to creation, the genesis of life, and what that means in terms of GameFi and the consequences for everybody involved. So let's get rolling. For those of you who've had your coffee this morning, perhaps you already noticed on the screen are just some of the digital collaborations that we're working with. Pokemon, Catboy, a Stormtrooper outfit, Pepe, if you can spot him, Skipper from Madagascar, and they're all there, and the Dragon Ball Z team. And they're all there in the middle of a melee, enjoying life. And what I want to do over the next 20 minutes is explain to you how we ended up in this situation. Perfect. So, when we first started this journey, we had an idea to create a metaverse world builder. The idea was to extend everybody's social media, gaming, and even trading activities into a simulated environment, to a virtual world. Now, the metaverse builder itself came with a whole series of requirements, and as we were doing our research, we came across some pretty serious obstacles. Now, the first of those was finality. One of the great things about blockchain, including its ability to serve as a public ledger, its extraordinary strength, speed, security, transparency, and so on, still has certain, let's say, design considerations, and one of those is finality. If I'm dealing with a metaverse and somebody, for example, fires a weapon or chops down a tree, I can't have a situation where one player sees result A and another player sees result B. So that was already a pretty big stumbling block. Hand in hand with finality comes throughput. Our first goal was to have 100,000 concurrent players running across the metaverse, having a wild time. I'm really pleased to say that we actually blew past that 100,000 figure, we blew past the million figure, and we landed way past the 2 million figure by the time we got finished. But the blockchains that were available for us were not offering this kind of performance and scalability. So that was another huge obstacle. Behind that, we've obviously got to render this environment. The thing that takes it off the page and stops it being 2D is the 3D engine. And we considered all sorts of options, and some of the most famous 3D engines in the world, we looked at them all. The majority of them had never been designed with blockchain in mind. There was some retrofitting, some backward compatibility, but they were not Web3 specific. And not only that, but then we hit another problem. The ones that had started to make steps in that particular direction were asking for an extension with a license fee. And that license fee was so cripplingly high, for a small team like ours, we couldn't even get started. And then we had the thought, well, we can't be the only ones. So we started talking to other game dev teams, other crypto projects, and we said, are you faced with a similar situation? And the answer was a resounding yes. And not only to that one particular issue, but standing up infrastructure, finding teams, pulling skills together, putting together a marketing push between 12 and 18 months, keeping your funding going, and at the end of it, you may or may not end up with something that's profitable. That's a pretty huge challenge, a big risk. So, What are problems for? Fixing. So we fixed it. And the first thing we did was we knew we had to be interoperable, right? We couldn't exist as an island. There was no point, especially in the ecosystem that we were trying to build. So step one, we looked at the dominant chains in the gaming and business environments. And we said, almost as a minimum requirement, we must be compatible with them. We want to work in that ecosystem with them. Secondly, we created a utility token. And emphasis on the word utility. We've all heard of and seen various projects that have been hyped up to enormous heights of success and hype and fame, and then maybe not delivered on the practical use case that they were designed for. We couldn't afford to let that happen. So the coin was designed very specifically to have functionality, to be efficient, to have low transaction fees, and much, much more. And I'm really pleased to announce that actually this week, in fact, today or tomorrow, we will have completed our migration to version 3 of this particular utility token, another huge milestone for us and the team. And the good news for you is that also includes staking and yield farming, another set of capabilities that we've added to the token. Now, the token on its own can't do all the heavy lifting. In order to materialize a metaverse, we needed to put around it 6 other products, including the 3D engine, including a software development kit, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to introduce those products to you in just a moment. But the key here is that we wanted to make sure that all those applications, all those experiences, that they work together not only in harmony for one type of user, but what if you're a developer and you want to get involved? A gamer, a trader, a creator, a social butterfly. At whichever level you choose your engagement with Metaverse, AZTEQ Metaverse Life, we wanted to have a nice on-ramp for you. Then finally, I talked about unlocking GameFi for everyone. And this little mantra, everyone, everywhere, GameFi unlocked, is only possible because we paid attention to how is this thing going to run on mobile devices, laptops, desktops, consoles, and as many platforms as we could find utility on. And that's really the key. We didn't narrow down our audience only to one type of device or one particular model of hardware. Now, these 6 products I talked about, the ones that actually work together to bring life to its current heights, start off with this incredible blockchain called Avenge. It's a layer 1 blockchain that we have designed very specifically to work with dynamic objects, and you can see how that makes sense in a metaverse perspective. If I've got an item that I go ahead and charge off on some adventures with, that item gets powered up, it gets various attributes, I have various experiences with it and through it, that item needs to be dynamic. So yes, we're working with NFTs in a way that we can actually write to the NFT. We can evolve it. The next part of this 6 pillars is the 3D engine that I talked about. It wasn't enough to have a very fast 3D engine. We also needed it to be blockchain compatible and exist comfortably in the Web3 ecosystem. Tetra has already won awards, industry awards in the space. And it's barely a year and a half old. This thing is just breaking records wherever it goes. One of the facts I'd like to share with you is 2 of the major 3D engines that are already out there today. One is called Unity, one is called Unreal. In performance tests, we were beating both of those 3D engines by a factor of 4 on mobile devices and browser-based playing experiences. That's a rather huge distinction. But we needed that level of scalability, of performance, and deep integration. Also, I needed developers to be able to pull up a chair with a good idea and start creating. If it took you 12 months just to get the hang of this particular system, then how is that better than working the old way What I wanted to offer was a software development kit that already had an easy-to-use interface where you could start creating and really produce results within the first few days, weeks, months, depending on the size of your challenge. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, just to give you a little sample of what's possible, at the top you might recognize a rather famous crypto project, Flocky Inu. In the middle, some of you may be familiar with Pepe. And at the bottom, for the Mandalorian fans, you may recognize what's possibly the most violent nurse in the history of childcare, IG-11. And the Mandalorian is one of the IP properties that we are working with right now. Now, to round out that little collection, I've also introduced the idea of a virtual human assistant. It's called Onyx, and the idea is that it pays attention to where you are, what you're doing, and what you've done inside the metaverse in order to guide you to completing whatever task, challenge, or question it is that you might have. And this AI has been developed and trained over the last year to make sure that any player interaction can be enhanced, can be magnified, and can be made more simple by interacting with your virtual assistant. Now, I also needed all players to understand where they were in the metaverse. So how many tokens have I got? Which items do I have? Which avatars do I have? And which costumes and outfits do I own? So we've given you Virtua. Virtua is an asset explorer that works with dynamic digital assets that keeps all of your items secure with an opt-in system for actually locking each item individually to make sure it's protected. And finally, it's deeply integrated into that layer 1 blockchain called Avenge. Now, when you bring all of those components together, you end up with Life. And Life is the world's first Web3 native metaverse spread over one of the largest playing areas of any MMO. And again, on the right-hand side, I've given you some samples. Now, that started life as a 2D NFT. We had the breakthrough last summer of discovering that we could convert compatible NFT types into 3D avatars inside the metaverse. And that's an example of one of the first ones. At the bottom, again, if you are perhaps a Star Wars fan, you'll recognize not only the Stormtrooper outfit, but the fact that a TIE fighter is being flown in space. Just to give you a flavor of the variety of various environments that are available in life. Now, what does that mean for you as an end user? Well, the use cases are innumerable, too many to count. But what I have done is I've tried to group them together into distinct areas. So I can point out, for example, socializing and entertainment. The promise of NFTs, digital ticketing, rare and collectible items that you could bind with your entertainment and socializing options have all come to fruition inside AZTEQ Metaverse Life. We equally wanted to highlight the gaming let's say, experiences for all our players, because gaming surely sits in that middle of the crossroads for GameFi between decentralized finance, gaming, and social media. So we've got differing gaming styles. You've got action games, adventure games, simulation games, and the idea is all that revenue as a creator comes back to you. That's really the key. Create your experience. Whether you charge for it or not, that's completely up to you. But whatever revenue you do make goes back into your pocket. Equally, we then want to extend that use case into v-commerce. So we want to have places, situations, experiences where people can buy, sell, trade. But we've also introduced leasing. So if you've got an item that you only need for a particular quest or adventure or to complete something, or alternatively, you simply want to try it before you buy it, then you've now got the option to lease that item, try it out, return it, and then perhaps create your own, maybe make one that's even more powered up. You could potentially just keep leasing as many items as you want until you're done with all of them. And v-commerce also extends to one other area, which is actually owning your own digital assets inside AZTEQ Metaverse Live. And the idea is that you have full control of sales and rentals of digital property inside Live. Now, over the last few years, everybody in this room has become very familiar with video conferencing, whether they wanted to or not. And we certainly wanted to extend that use case from just streaming and staring into something a little bit more interactive. Because immersion is surely one of the biggest keys of making a metaverse successful. So in terms of education and training, we wanted to take that visual, auditory, and kinesthetic experience and complete all three modalities together to sort of raise that classroom interaction, both for the teacher and for the student. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about virtual workspaces as an extension to that. If any of you have ever had the ambition to attend a work meeting in a onesie, then I've got great news for you. You found your people. Welcome home. You've got the ability to enter these virtual workspaces, collaborate with other people, have remote meetings, in whichever avatar you choose, wearing whichever outfit you prefer that day. That's not only part of the experience, but it also becomes part of the, let's say, liberation of being inside the metaverse and being able to choose what your particular avatar and representation looks like. Now, it doesn't only need to be meetings of a business nature. You could meet with your health support team, or alternatively, you could find a quiet spot, sit down with Onyx, and write a book. The possibilities are vast. Now, I thought it might be interesting for you guys to meet the team who's actually flying this spaceship. And so what I've done is split out the 5 different areas that exist inside AZTEQ Metaverse. I call them sort of 5 fingers of a hand. They work together interoperably. Each one needs the other components in order to succeed. Mavens is our team of crack commando engineers responsible for dev and QA. Creative is our campaign headquarters and content creation team. Outreach are our boys and girls in the field, teaching the world to sing and also allowing them to buy AZTEQ coins. And Jaguars are our evangelists, really listening to those communities that are already out there in the world, finding out what's useful to them, what's relevant, what's hot, what's not. And then finally, the oversight team that take care of keeping our strategy on track and knocking out those daily obstacles. Now, we're over 40 people in this tribe so far, and we're still growing. All I can say is it's been a really difficult journey, but a brilliant one. And it's these guys that have made the journey worthwhile, kept us going, and made sure that at the end of each day, at least we can put our tools down with a smile. So thanks to everybody, certainly in the AZTEQ Metaverse team. In terms of the timeline, if I put all of our highlights up here, it would end up looking like a star field. So what I've done instead is just pull out some of the major highlights. The first time we launched the AZTEQ coin, that was V1. Way back in January 2023, our first decentralized exchange launch, centralized exchange launch, and in the middle of that, the birth of Onyx, our virtual assistant AI, and also that breakthrough that we had where we realized that, wait a minute, we can actually turn these 2D assets into 3D playables inside the metaverse. Now, that also came along with 2 enormous rafts of partner let's say collaborations. And if any of you have got one of your logos up on the board here today, I just want to say an enormous thanks because it's thanks to all of these people's wisdom, expertise, and skills that helped us get to where we are today. So what I've done is I've taken a cross-section of tech, finance, fashion, IP properties, and some of the top crypto projects out there just to give you an idea of the kind of diversity and variety that's required to get something like this, not just off the ground, but then flying through space. Now, I'm hoping that you'll recognize at least one of our digital collaborations up on the screen at the moment. I never thought I'd be in a position where I'd be talking about Barbie and Magic the Gathering in the same sentence, but here we are. This is just a small sample of the library of digital collabs that we are building up, and I'm so excited to share these and many, many more with you. Finally, I just want to give a shout out to our community. From the very beginning, we've chosen to be an organically grown project, and that meant we had to rely on our community. They've been our tribe out in the jungles of social media. So to all of them, a huge thanks for your feedback, for your support, for your reach. And finally, if life was the target, then you guys were the arrow keeping us flying true. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I hope that was useful.
Thank you. Thank you, Zaf.